everyone, welcome back to the Toal Tribe channel. I'm Laurient.
And I'm Mike.
I recently asked on Instagram what are some things that you guys wanted to see from us on our channel, and the most requested video was an adoption Q&A. So I asked you guys for your Qs so that I could give you our A's, and I am here with Mike, and we are going to do that for you right now. So for starters, what led you to infant adoption?
We want the experience of raising a baby.
Yeah. So basically what led us to adoption for, I assume that this person was probably a little bit newer to like my Instagram and the channel. Mike and I were diagnosed like 2 years ago with unexplained infertility. I had always been interested in adoption, but I never really knew when and if that was going to be something in the cards for me. I knew obviously adoption's a big thing. Your spouse would have to be on board. And, I didn't know, when it first initially came to my mind when I was younger that that was going to be something that, my future husband would want to do. And so once we found out that we had fertility issues, we kind of started talking about alternative paths to becoming parents. And I wasn't quite ready to undergo infertility treatments at that point. And so we started researching adoption. We came across domestic infant adoption, and we knew that we wanted to be parents to a newborn and get to experience that stage of life. And so that's kind of what led us to domestic infant adoption. This next one, how did you get your husband on board with adoption?
It wasn't really much of a fight. At very first, I don't think I was on board fully until we got more information. I had a lot of concerns. Yeah. Like, are they gonna love me?
Right.
Money wise, how much does this cost? And
a lot of key things.
There's a lot of things involved, and that's what scared me at first. Yeah. But then as I thought about it a little bit more here and there, I got on board. Yeah. And I was actually excited for it. Now I'm thankful that we did do it. Yeah. Mike
is one of those kinds of people that need like all the information up front to kind of help make a decision. Like, he doesn't like bits and pieces. He doesn't like vague information. Like, if he's gonna do something, he kind of wants to know everything there is to know, like, up front. Yeah. And so I knew that if I was really gonna talk to him, I needed more information. So when I would bring it up to him, we would never get very far. Right. Because I didn't have all the information and he needed more. He was just too uncertain about it. And so eventually I had done more and more research. I had come up with, a lot of the, the key points for different kinds of adoption, because at that point we hadn't decided what we wanted to do. And it was enough for him to say, well, let's take the next steps and reach out to experts in the field and figure out what the process is going to look like and what we really want to do. How did you choose an agency? So once we narrowed down what kind of adoption we wanted to do, we then looked for an agency. And the reason we did it that way is because some agencies don't do, international adoption at all. Some do, but maybe they don't do every country, and they might not do the country that you're interested in. So you really, should kind of go into looking for your agency with, an idea of the path that you want to take, just so you can select the right, agency for your situation. So we looked up agencies that did, domestic infant adoptions in our area. We knew that we wanted to do an in-state adoption, because we just felt like it would help cut down some of the costs. So we were really looking for an agency that was only licensed where we live. And then I tend to do better with smaller organizations, and that kind of goes for like everything in life. And so I kind of just knew I wanted an adoption agency that had like a smaller feel to it, that wasn't pumping out hundreds of adoptions a year. I wanted to feel like we were going to be important and that they were going to be super ethical with dealing with expectant moms and things like that. And I just felt like a smaller agency, we'd have a better chance of, kind of seeing that happen and keeping an eye on the process. And so we weeded out the large ones and then eventually came across our agency. I don't share their name on here in the videos, but if you do live in New Jersey, which is where we live, and you're interested in using our adoption agency, feel free to private message me on Instagram. I will leave my handle down here. It's @LaurentToal. And I am happy to DM you that information. How did you afford to adopt? It's so expensive.
Because we're rich.
We're not. It is very expensive. And I will tell you that the cost was like the first bit of overwhelming information that comes across when you start this process. And it really can be a factor that keeps you from moving forward if you let it scare you. we chose to kind of just move forward in faith. When we started the adoption process, we did not have nearly enough money to complete the process. Domestic infant adoption can cost anywhere between, I would say, 30 to 50,000, and so that's like a lot of money to just have off the bat. Not everybody has that sitting in their account, so right. We definitely didn't have it. We had enough to get us started, and then we just figured it would take us time to get matched, and we would come up with the rest however we needed to. I don't ever want to get into specific numbers, just because that is super personal and, you know, specific to kind of our situation. It's different for everybody. But what I will say is that we just sacrificed, guys, like in our own personal finances. We saved wherever we could. We cut out gym memberships. We cut out anything that we could. We cut out anything that we could to save extra money, even if it was only an extra $40 a month. It was something. Right. Mike worked a ton of overtime. Whenever he could, he worked. I sold a bunch of stuff in our house so that we could kind of raise extra money. We did a t-shirt fundraiser on Bonfire, which I've talked about on our channel before, and I actually posted a video that I will link up top for you about ways that you can help fund your adoption, different ideas that you can kind of do that I've heard other people do to help fund adoptions. You can even put together, is it Help Us Adopt? I think it's Help Us Adopt. It's basically like a GoFundMe for adoption, and you can do that and people can kind of donate to the cause, and it's also, I believe, a tax write-off, so it's good for them when they file their taxes. And so there are many ways. You just have to get creative, and you just have to have faith that that money will show up, and somehow miraculously it does. Was the adoption process hard on your marriage? I'll let you take that one because I want to know what you think.
I don't think so at all. If anything, I think once we got all the information we needed and everything was on the table and we knew what we were doing, I think it made our life more exciting, more fun.
Gave us something to look forward to.
The reveal party that we had was fun. Mm-hmm. You know. Yeah,
I would say struggling with infertility was actually really hard on our marriage, and was really difficult for us to get through. Once we switched gears and started focusing on adoption, I would say it kind of
made things better.
Yeah, I would say it sparked this new excitement in us. And we were just so excited for this like new journey that we could conquer together. What was the healing process like after your failed adoption? So coping with those things and how we healed, like, I mean, it was hard. It is hard.
Like anything else, I think, right?
It's just, you know, there aren't words. It feels like a loss. I will say that dealing with the failed match was tough because we were so close, but we also had a feeling that it was going to go that way. Because we had gotten a call like probably the week prior that, you know, something was not feeling 100%. So we kind of were able to kind of mentally prepare ourselves for that. It was still tough, but that was the first blow. And so we felt like there was still hope, right, moving forward. The disrupted placement really, really shook us. It really rocked us and our faith in the process and what was going to be in store for us, because we were like, lightning struck twice and this second time was really bad, and I was devastated, and we didn't know for a little while if we were going to be able to go on financially, emotionally. It was really, really difficult, and how we got through it, like, I mean, man, we were there for each other. We cried. I cried. Mike listened. We just listened. We had a lot of deep talks. We didn't, we took the time to feel what we needed to feel. Don't let anybody tell you, well, those weren't ever your kids to begin with, so, just have faith and move on. Like, people will try to tell you that, and it's their way of trying to make you feel better, but it doesn't usually. But
it actually pisses me off.
It actually makes you mad. But, take the time that you need to feel the things that you need to feel. Have the deep conversations. Be there for each other. Don't let it pull you apart. Let it bring you together. And just, pray. Keep having faith. Keep moving forward. And you'll get there.
Yeah.
It just takes some time. Do you still think about the twins? I'll let you answer that first.
From time to time, I still think about them. I try not to, because it brings up a lot of, feelings and, Just a lot of memories that I don't want to relive, to be honest.
Right. I still think about the twins. I even go as far back as thinking about the first baby that we were matched with and hoping that, he's doing well and that his mother, is adjusting to parenthood and that they're both doing well. And so, yeah, I think about the twins. I think about their mother. I think about, that situation often. But it doesn't hurt me anymore. Like Mike said, it still brings up some feelings for him that he's, has to work through. And for me, it doesn't. I'm not sad about it. I think that things worked out the way that they were supposed to work out. So I can kind of think about them and go back to that place and not be, really hurt by it. But yeah, I think that it's natural to think about the children that could have been. Was your adoption in state or out of state? So Josiah's adoption was in state. When we were with the twins, that was out of state. And actually we had never, like I had said before, we looked for an agency licensed in state. We were never planning to adopt out of state. It was just a situation that arose and came to our agency and came to us. And we, like I said, anytime a door was open, we kind of walked through it in faith. What are your jobs? And did you have support from your employers and coworkers? So I work in corporate America. I'm in marketing, and Mike works on the railroad. For part of your home study, you have to get your employer to sign off on paperwork basically that says that you're employed there. So obviously we needed our boss's signatures for that. So we had to let them know really early in the process.
My supervisor, I remember going to her office and I had another coworker behind me, so it was kind of like awkward. Because we were so into the early stages.
Yeah, it's your home study.
It was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'm in a situation where I had to tell my supervisor, but I didn't know how to tell the other guy behind me, be like, hey, can I get some room?
Yeah, and you had been with your company for years at that point. Yeah. I hadn't even hit the 1 year mark with my company yet. It was approaching in maybe 4 months after we started the process, 4 or 5 months. And so I was a little bit nervous because I was worried that they were gonna think less of me as an employee. She just started here, she hasn't even been here for a year, and now she's asking me to sign paperwork because she's gonna adopt a baby and go on leave. But my boss, my direct boss, is actually one of the most incredible human beings you will ever meet. He even wrote me a letter of recommendation. He was just really great throughout the entire process, and everybody that I worked with, my coworkers that I would talk to about it were very supportive. Honestly, it's really important. It's really hard to go through the adoption process when you're working somewhere where your employees or your coworkers are not supportive, because there are going to be times where you need to take off of work for maybe your home study visit, or you have to go and meet an expectant parent. Every time we were matched, we had to go and have a meeting with that expectant mother and the social workers. And so a lot of those meetings take place on weekdays, and so you're missing work. Yeah. And you might have to travel a little bit for them. And so it can be difficult. So it really is important to kind of have everybody know the process and what you're going through and be understanding of that. Did you spend time with the birth mother in the hospital? So we did. And I think everything that happens in the hospital really is entirely up to the biological mother and what she wants to do and what she feels comfortable with. So if she wants to see us, if she wants to spend time with us, we want to be there. If she doesn't, then we want to give her that space. Right. If she wants to spend time with her child, then that is her prerogative and she can do that. If she doesn't want us to see them until, discharged, then that's her prerogative as well. So I honestly take a step back and let that biological mom make every decision in the hospital. She calls the shots 100%, and I totally just respect that. Right. And so it's really, everybody's situation is going to be different, but yes, we were able to, and we really enjoyed that time. Do you believe in birth mother gifts?
I guess that's a personal thing, right?
I think I definitely think that that's going to be different for everybody. I think that they're fine as long as they're appropriate. They're not over the top, and the timing of them is also important. important because you don't want to ever come off as like coercive. That's just unethical. I think it's up to you as an adoptive family. I think it's also dependent on the relationship that you have. You know, if you haven't talked to them or spent much time with them, you know, it might come off a little strange to give them like a gift. Maybe flowers would suffice or something. I don't know. But again, I think that's going to be different for everybody. I think though, if you're working with an agency or an adoption consultant, you should 100% check with them first. They might have a policy about it. And you should just, you know, maybe get some ideas from them on what they deem, you know, appropriate before you go out and do anything. Is having an open adoption hard?
Yeah, again, that probably depends on the situation. For us, in our situation, I think it's very easy.
Yeah, Mike's right. Like that's gonna depend. But I mean, for us personally, it hasn't been hard. It's funny, like when we first started the process, you know, you read and you hear about how beneficial open adoption is for your adoptive child, and so we wanted to be part of that because we obviously wanted what was going to be best for whatever child was placed with us. As a parent, you always want what's best for your child. So if that was going to be what was beneficial to them, that's what we wanted to do. But we would be lying if we said we weren't a little bit scared. Right? Like the idea of sharing your child is a little scary, and you're like,
if
well,
he likes her better than us.
Yeah, it's scary. But then all of those fears dissipate when you meet the biological parents of your child or your, you know, soon to be or your hopeful child, because you just love them. Like it's an unexplainable love. It's kind of like when you look at your child for the first time, you just love them, without really knowing them, without, you know, anything. You just do. It's a natural kind of reaction. That is really how you feel about your child's biological parents. You just love them, and you just have so much compassion for them and what they're going through and the decisions that they've made. I know, I hear him. We gotta be quick. And so it just kind of is natural, and it ends up not being scary once you kind of reach that moment where you meet them and get to know them. When you saw Josiah, did you just know that his adoption would work out?
No, because I don't think you ever really know, especially from what we already went through.
Yeah.
You just never know. It could go left, but you always have the hope that it will go right.
Yeah. I mean, the moment I saw Josiah, I knew that I loved him.
Right.
You know, if you watch that video, our video where we met our son, I'm gonna link it up top. You see there's a really emotional moment where I'm holding him and I look up at Mike and he just goes, "That's your son." And I just start crying because in my heart of hearts, I did feel like he was my son. But after everything that we had already been through, I knew that there was a possibility that that could all be taken away from me. That he, in fact, was not my son, not yet. In my heart he was, but legally he wasn't. And, that could all change. And so that's adoption, guys. It's hard. It's putting yourself in a really, really vulnerable place, in hopes that it's going to be the best thing for your child. But knowing that your heart could be shattered at any moment. What is the post-placement process like? Basically, for those of you who are not super familiar with, you know, adoption and what the post-placement process is, it's, you know, now that we have been placed with our child and we're home with him, what is that process like? So basically there are 4, I believe, social worker visits that happen post-placement. And then a report will be written up, and then, you know, your attorney files with the courts, you know, to kind of finalize the adoption. That process might look different depending on your situation. And as far as what is the post-placement process like emotionally for us, I mean, obviously we are ecstatic, thrilled, over the moon to be home with our son. It is a little bit weird, you know, knowing that it's not totally finalized to us, regardless of whether it's finalized. He is our child.
I feel like in our hearts it is finalized.
Yeah, in our hearts it's finalized.
In actuality,
it's not. And I mean, you know, we don't expect there to be any, you know, hiccups or whatever, but, you know, it's still a little nerve-wracking. And the other like weird part about it is like the post-placement like social worker visits. It just feels a little bit weird because when you imagine like bringing your child home for the first time, you know, you don't think about people checking in with you periodically to make sure that everything is okay and that you're all gelling and working out. Like, you know, I know that it's not, and so I don't take it personally, but it does feel a little bit weird. I have to talk about, like, you know, your doctor's visits and how much the baby is growing and what you're doing and how much they're sleeping, and it's strange to answer those questions and have somebody like keeping a log of it, I guess.
Yeah.
It feels like you're being watched. So that can kind of add another stressful layer to parenting. But again, like I said, like I know that this is part of the process, so like I don't take it personally.
Right.
But it's there.
It is.
Will Josiah go to daycare or will you be a stay-at-home mom?
We actually talk about that a lot, don't we?
We talk about this a lot. Josiah won't go to daycare, but I also will not be a stay-at-home mom. I have a retired father. Mike has a retired mother. My mom has saved up a ton of time off that she will be using to help watch Josiah. So he will be with my dad, Mike's mom, and then my mom throughout the week. They'll all kind of split up days, and so he will be taken care of by family for at least the first year, and then we'll talk about introducing, you know, like part-time daycare, just so that he can be socialized and be around other children. But you know, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Right now this is the situation, but I am going back to work probably just in a few weeks, right. Given whatever is going on with this coronavirus. And as you can tell by my demeanor, I'm not super excited about it. I'm devastated to have to be leaving my son. I want to be home with him more than anything. And it's funny because I never ever thought of myself as a stay-at-home mom. My mom worked. My parents divorced when I was 7, so my mom was a single mom, and she worked really, really hard, and that's just what I saw and I observed my whole life, and I always thought that that's what I would do. I obviously hoped and knew I would have a husband to help me. I wouldn't be a single mom, and we live in a really expensive state, and so I just never thought it was possible. I never thought it was possible to live in New Jersey and to live off of one income. Because I am so devastated and I am so set on being home, Mike and I have talked about what we need to do in our lives and financially in order for us to make that happen for me in the future. So it's not possible for me to be home with Josiah right now, but hopefully for, you know, future babies, I will be able to be home with them. Can you tell what Josiah's personality will be like? Is he more like you or Mike? I don't think I can tell yet.
Nah, it's too early. It's
too early. I mean, I can tell that he's like a sweet little peanut, because he is.
Right.
And he is pretty happy. Like, he's a pretty smiley kid.
He's very smiley.
There are certain periods of the day where he's more smiley, and then certain periods where he's a little bit more serious. But yeah, I think it's too soon to tell.
We probably won't know until he's like 1, right?
I don't know, at least another couple of months. Not yet that I can tell, but I'm always looking for like similarities between him and his like biological parents, because I think even when you're not raised around your biology, I think that you're still going to have components of them. Have you received mean or negative comments about your adoption? You haven't?
I don't think, not that I can think of right now.
No, I haven't received any negative comments. Nobody's been like, you know, you shouldn't have done that or whatever. I have received just like weird comments, like things that you can't believe that people say. And but I mean, that's like throughout the entire adoption process. The weirdest one that I got post placement was somebody messaged me on Instagram and asked how I got a baby that looks like me, as if I went like shopping.
You customized
and I was like, that one kind of looks like me. I'll take him, just ring him up. Like, that's not how this process works. As you can see here, the rest of the clips that we recorded, for some reason, recorded the visual but did not record audio, which is a total bummer. And it actually happens all the time. I'm usually able to rectify the issue, but this file, I think, had something corrupt in it, and I just couldn't get it to work. So I am so sorry that it cut out before the end of the video. And we actually only had one question left, and it was the most asked question, which of course is, what is going to be the story with baby number 2? When are we going to start working on that? And would we consider adoption again? And that's a really great question. It was, like I said, the most asked question, and we want to answer it for you guys. But I think we're actually going to save that for another video because the clip cut out here, and I think that could honestly be a whole video in itself. So Mike and I will work on that for you and get that up at a little later date, not too long. Don't worry, you don't have to wait super long for the answer. I hope you guys enjoyed this video though. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. You can leave any questions or comments you have for us down below. We would love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe, of course, and we will see you guys in our next video. Bye.